What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Submission Fishing Podcast. Hope you all had a happy new year. Here we are, 2024, ready for new year. Another round of fishing adventures. Hopefully 2023 was good. Yeah, we're just going to talk about kind of new fishing adventures, new ways to fish, new things we're doing, maybe some New Year's fishing resolutions. I've got with me the one and only Kevin Nakada, Sea Samurai, Fishing Reps. You guys know him, you're familiar with him. Absolute fishing slayer. So without further ado, Kevin Nakada, how you doing, man?
What up?
How you been?
Good. Staying warm as much as possible in Florida with you.
Yeah, it's been freaking cold. I don't know if people know, but it's been like in the 30s at night. I mean,
yeah,
high 30s, but still like 38 degrees or something like that.
And 50s during the day.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. It has not been warming up. At least this week, last couple of weeks have been pretty freaking cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't stop us from fishing. Yeah,
the fishing's really good. I don't know if we were in California right now, we'd be like spotty fishing, and that's and calico bass and sand bass, and that would probably be the thing we'd be talking about the most. But like out here, it's everything still. Everything's still biting. So not as easy, but things are definitely a lot more prevalent out here. Redfish, trout, flounder, and all the offshore stuff. Well, I guess we're going to talk about that, right? So tons of that stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like you were saying, like the different kind of all the different species that go on here, where like you're saying, California, you're kind of reduced to basically spotted bass. Well, you still got calico, sand bass, stuff like that. There's halibut, but the rockfish season's closed. Tuna have kind of moved on. Dorado's pushed on. A lot of the pelagics. The bluefin probably still there. I just don't think anybody's fishing for them, right? Like a lot of the boats kind of anchor up and they don't go out. It seems like after the end of October.
I think the Royal Polaris was posting that they were on Big Bluefin over there, and that was this last week. So I don't know if they're still around or if they found them in a different zone in Mexico, but there's definitely bluefin still around and the bigger stuff too. So, but yeah, I would imagine that there is a probability that there's tuna around. It's just how much compared to summer, probably nothing compared to summer.
Right.
And then there's yellowtail around, but like, if you're over here and you're fishing, you can fish like in 6 inches of water still all the way out to 70 feet. And there is fish everywhere. Like it's not, and in the summer it was different. There was like 90-degree water, and now it's like 58-degree water. So the fish are seeing that extreme of like, 30 something degrees, and they're still crazy active, and they're biting, and they're schooled up more. And I don't know, it's different. It's totally different animal over here, but it's been really good. It's been very good.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, that's obviously like one of the New Year's things is learning new types of fishing. I know for me in general, it's been a whole new fishery, coming out here. I've fished out here before and tried new things, but now it's really becoming a part of my everyday routine, now when I go out and fish, and definitely learning new things. I mean, sight fishing is definitely something new that is going to be this new year. Something that I'm having to learn and chase. It's totally different, and that's been a big adjustment. It's amazing how much the fishing changes, from region to region. Like here, for those of you guys that don't know sight fishing, you've been taking me out, and it's been a struggle a little bit. I mean, I haven't been too successful with it. For those of you guys that don't know, we're going out in 6 inches of water where we're push pulling with the kayak, or we're not push pulling. What's the word I'm looking for? Like using the
paddling,
the paddle, pushing through the mud. I mean, you get to a point where you can't even paddle. We kind of paddle out from the launch, wade out there, and then we just go back out there through the grass flats and stuff. And I mean, we're in literally inches of water where we're just pushing along with the pole. I mean, you can't even paddle, and that's a totally different game. I mean, to me, it seems it's more like it's more reminiscent of hunting than it is, I think, fishing. I don't know if you agree with that, but when you hunt, you're like looking for the animal, Where fishing, it seems like you're more, you don't really see the fish. You can see them on a fish finder and stuff like that, but a lot of times you're blind casting, you're fishing structure. You fish areas where you think there's fish. The sight fishing is you're actually physically looking for you're looking for the shadow, you're looking for the fin, you're looking for them coming out of the water, which is like, it's been a really different game for sure.
Yeah, it is a hunt. Like that's the part I like about it so much. It's like, I don't know, you see everything they're doing. They're eating, they're moving around, what they do, you can learn so much just by watching them. It's like going to an aquarium and looking at the fish you target. Like in Scripps La Jolla, they have the birch aquarium, they have yellowtail, and they have, and it's not realistic what they're doing, but sometimes you'll watch them like scooting along the bottom and rubbing their sides because they're itchy. And that's just a behavior they do. Like they're down deep. Like they're not always at the top. And then sometimes they're breezing around at the top. So like you learn some things by watching them, but redfish, you learn so much just by, you can stare at them and you're watching how they move and how slow they move and what they're looking for and how they're positioned with their head, or if they're cruising around, like how much easier they are to see when they're up top and why they're up top and where they are in the mud, where they're on a grass line, what they're relating to. If they're relating to oyster bars, like you can see them kicking up mud near the oyster bars. So it is it's like it's a sensory overload when you're stalking fish. You learn so much. You have the opportunity to see the fish eat your lure and see how they react to it. And that for me is like the ultimate, like, that's, I don't know. You can imagine it below the water, but to see it when you're above water and you can see it below water, like that's the coolest thing to me.
Right. I know it's like your big thing. So I'm trying to learn it. First time I went out, I thought I'll be honest, I thought it was pretty boring fishing. The second time it was like, it was a little bit better. I've only gotten the trout, I haven't sight fished. I haven't gotten one of the reds yet. Maybe I haven't hooked one, and maybe that'll change things. You know what I mean? But it is winter. Yeah. I mean, we're going out.
It's winter.
Rigid. We've been seeing them, but it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work just to find them, and then you like hope they bite. You know what I mean? It's
just wait till spring and summer. Like it's gonna totally change you. You're seeing the hardest time to really to dial them in. The water is really clear. That's the only thing that really separates now between now and summer. But like when summer comes around, they're putting their tails like up in the water. Like you can see them moving along, and you just got to cast in front of them and then make sure they sense your lure when you move it. But now you have to be like you have to be really on edge. Like you can't touch your paddle on your boat. You can't like dig into an oyster bar. When you stop and see a fish, you have to like pull over to the side and like let it come at you. They're super, skittish right now. And they're not like that in the summer. They're dumb as rocks. And like, you just got to get a cast near them, and then hopefully they see it or feel it and they'll smash it. But, yeah, I mean, it is. When I did it in La Jolla for yellowtail, it was the same thing for me. Like I liked the idea of being able to put a lure in front of a fish I can see, and then watching it come up and smash, a surface iron or a stick bait. Like it was just always like, that was the ultimate. And I can remember all of them pretty much. And it was quite a few hundred yellowtail I did that with. So but it was always like, ooh, like you got to do that and see them, I don't know.
Right. Foamer fishing's a lot like that too. Like bluefin tuna, when they're foaming, is real similar to that. When you find the foamer, you search for them all day, you're just looking for foamers, and then you see them chasing poppers and surface irons and stuff like that. And then literally seeing the bite, when they come up and get it. So,
yeah. I mean, it's the same concept as like going after trophy bass. Like, do you want to catch a bunch of 1-pounders all day, or are you looking for 1 10-pounder? Like, what are you going to remember most, So I think it's different for people. Like, I think some people just want to catch a bunch and they're all happy with it. And some people like catching one that's like, that was cool. Like that one moment, Right. So I don't know. I think at some point,
question, right? Yeah. Bunch of fish or
yeah.
fish?
I think at some point people, when you fish long enough, they kind of mature and they go into this phase of like, I caught like a couple hundred or a couple thousand like redfish. Okay, what's
Yeah.
next? Like, what can I do to make this more interesting for the, aside from the monotony I've had for 2 decades or whatever it is, however long people have fished from, So, um, but I imagine like that's kind of the opposite of jigging on a reef, because you never see them unless it's like a rare thing where they come up next to the boat and eat it. But it's like always down, and it's the mystery. Like
Yeah,
when
you
you
don't know
lift
what
your,
the,
yeah,
you
you
know if
never
it's like
know.
kind of big or not, but you don't know what the hell it is. It's like until it
Hmm.
comes up to the boat, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's cool. Like there's two different sides of uh there's so many different ways to catch a fish. Like how do you want to catch it, and to be able to do what you want, to learn how you want to do it. Like that's something like you as an angler who's matured long enough, I think you finally understand what makes you, what's the drive you have, what makes you go, is it sight fishing, is it vertical jigging, is it trophy hunting, is it just numbers, like or is it competing, like what is it that makes you really get after it. So
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of like, yeah, same thing. I think that's part of the quest, and that's what we mean by getting your black belt in fishing. It's learning all aspects of it and all different types.
mhm.
Even if you don't use it, even though it's not your favorite, it's like it's important to learn all the different kind of techniques and aspects of the game.
Mhm.
Even if it's not something you like to do, if you learn something from it, like you're saying, fish behavior or something that you can apply to more of a style that you like, it's worth doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish there was, honestly, I wish there was better big game fishing in the winter in general, as far as like, uh, all species. I think that not all species are like that. I think that,
I think that's just
there's,
biology.
well, like yellowtail maybe is one of the bigger exceptions. I always caught bigger fish in the colder months. Always big sheephead in the winter. Always. Um,
Well, yellowtail's kind
like
of an exception, right? Because they would come as they get bigger, they live near the islands and closer to shore. When they're small, they stay out on the kelp and stuff like that. And as they grow, they kind of move in to La
mhm.
Jolla and Coronado and Catalina and stuff like that. It's interesting.
Yeah, and they stay in a spot for a while if there's enough food. And man, like I didn't catch. I mean, I caught quite a few during the summer if there was a squid bed that were over 40 pounds. But like majority of the 40-pound plus fish locally were in the winter or in the early spring, just like before the water changed and we went from like mega cold to like somewhat warm, from like 50s down to up to like when it gets to like 65. I think fish really get excited, and every way they kind of like go, oh, it's back on, like we're gonna live again. So maybe double digit bass fishing, also wintertime fishing seems to always produce more. I think that's a totally different animal, but it's because of the temperature, kind of the thermoclines, they start to become smaller. During the summer there's a heavier thermocline where the cold water sinks down below the hot surface water, and so the big fish like to stay way down deep compared to when it's winter, and that thermocline is literally consistent throughout the whole lake, and they can push up into shallow water and not feel the unpleasantness of super mega hot water, so with low
Right.
oxygen.
Great.
So because I've had a lot of experience shore pounding for double digit bass, or trying to. I've caught, I would say, a handful of legitimate double digits on a swim bait from shore, and they always were really shallow on very very sunny winter days. Like they were abnormally skinny in the water like shoreline area. They were very close, and that
Just trying
was
to find that
like,
warmth.
Yeah, well, remember it's the water temperature is the same throughout the lake, so they don't have to feel anything odd by moving around more. They can move around more and feel more comfortable. So, plus there's also trout. So like the trouts are getting planted when they used to get heavier. It used to be even more. You could observe those big fish moving around more, but like nowadays it's not nearly as much of a change. Like they definitely dropped the amount of trout stocks in Cali, so they don't do as much as what they used to do, but they're still there.
Yeah, it
So
was a big decline during the whole government lockdown thing. I know that kind of like even
mhm.
before that it was slowing down, but that's like that really killed it. I mean, it's almost but one of the problems was they stopped for like almost 2 years on some lakes, and then how do you ever kind of bring it back? You're gonna have to triple stock them to replenish the numbers. It's kind of sad. You can't really stop, and then be like, oh,
Yeah.
we're starting again. That number's already declined, and now it's gonna take a while because a lot of those that don't get caught, they stay native and then they breed, and stuff like that. And then
I don't know. Those trout die. They don't live. They don't live past summer. If they live past summer, they're really randomly special trout. But there's not a lot of holdovers. It's very rare. There's a couple lakes that I can think of that have really good holdover numbers, but they usually get smoked by bass. Like that's just one of the things that happens is like they start dying, and then nowadays it's only 500 pounds of trout. It used to be 1,500, 2,500 pounds of trout per plant, every single week or at least 2 times a month. And now it's at 500 pounds once in every 2 months, maybe, in some of these public lakes. And it's like, wow, that's a big difference. Those fish are definitely not keying in on that food source anymore. So, but anyways, I wish there was bigger fish in
you think the
general to
ones that
go
like the
after.
ones that live and breed just get eaten by the bass. They just get smoked.
Well, they need
Or they die out.
in order for trout to breed, they need that current and they need a river. They need something to be able to sit there and create a redd for them to, basically drop their spawn, their eggs off into the redd and then let it grow up with circulating water, highly oxygenated water going over, that it's not like a bass where a bass just sits in a spot with enough sun and enough a good enough water temperature with no weeds in a bare spot in the bottom of the lake that's less than like 20 feet typically. Some in California fish like the clearer the water, the deeper those spawn. So, but anyways, so the fish needs to basically the trout need to have circulating water, and in California reservoirs they don't have that. They don't do that because it's a dammed lake. So it's a dammed body of water. So they basically get introduced, and aside from them being raised in a concrete silo basically
Right. Right.
with being fed corn, I'm not sure that that's really good to make it to produce really good reproduction rates for these corn fed trout. So um, it's I don't think they stay over, and it gets too hot in these lakes too. Some of the places like I know, like I said, a handful of lakes, reservoirs in California that actually I've caught holdover trout, and I was impressed. Like they actually were beautiful, like chrome, look like steelhead kind of trout, like full tails, just beautiful looking trout. And you're like, that fish was tough enough to make it through, but it has a target on its back for sure.
Yeah,
So.
that's interesting. Because I went
Mhm.
fishing. It was like 2021. I went up to Lake Gregory. I was fishing up there, and I know it hadn't been stocked in a long time. And I was fishing like a little spoon, and I didn't get any bites, but I had a follower. The brown trout like followed it all the way into the shore, and I was pretty surprised. I was like, "Oh, damn!"
That's different.
I had to have been a survivor for sure.
Oh, well, that's different because Lake Gregory is up at altitude. So when you get up in altitude, the fish has a higher likelihood of living because down the reservoirs and lowland, it basically is too hot. So the summer they can't make it. But the Gregory and Big Bear and all those places at elevation, they'll be fine because the water is cold. So it has a higher oxygen rate. I believe there's also some streams and creeks that feed Gregory, right?
Yeah, there are. Well, they kind of it starts from like because it's in the mountains and it's right off. Right, it goes from like Big Bear.
Mm-hmm.
and it funnels down to Arrowhead, then Gregory, then it goes to Silverwood Lake,
Right.
on the backside. Yeah, but um, they
Fed
all kind
by
of come off the
creeks.
same source, San Bernardino
Yeah.
Mountain water source. Because that's what I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about. I guess I've never really fished the reservoirs and dams that you're talking about. Like I grew up there, in the mountains, uh, up in the Lake Arrowhead area. So that's my experience with the trout fishing. So that's,
Yeah. Like,
I guess I should clarify that. I've never really fished down in I think I went to Dixon like one time
mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
Escondido, but other than that, it's always been up in the mountains. And you can see like even Lake Arrowhead, like you just see the trout like chilling by the docks. I mean, those are the rainbow trout. I mean, they live there. I mean, they pretty much stay there all year.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think you can dock that, and it's a private lake.
in Dixon, like that was where the unofficial world record was caught and it was 25 pounds, but it was a giant
A
bass.
trout?
No, bass, largemouth bass. That was like it was snagged, unfortunately, and the guy owned it, which is good. He was. There's actually kind of like a mini documentary about it, and
Purposefully snagged
yeah.
or no, just accidental?
Well, in a way, it was accidental because he didn't see the jig when it came down onto it was a white jig and on a bed, and you could see the jig. But when the big body of the fish comes around and you just feel like anything, it could have been just inhaling this little tiny jig compared to its body. And so he didn't see the jig anymore. And so he thought it sucked it up. So he set the hook and it got caught in the back. So, but that fish was very well known. His name was Dottie. Her name was Dottie, and it was the biggest largemouth bass ever seen, period, in the entire world. So at the time, well, it still is. It's a massive fish. So, but it was a trout eater. It ate trout. That was, and probably anything else that was close to being edible. So
Yeah, it probably knew when the stock was, where to go.
yeah, they do. They know. They're crazy, dude. When you go to these lakes that stock on the stocking day, if you sit there, the fish when they were more regular, they would know the day of the week. It was really crazy, and they can feel the truck coming down the ramp because they know it's a different sound, and then they'll know when the trout starts to get planted because they turn the water on from the tank and it goes in. Oh man, you should see them. They just come out from the docks and just smash trout. Like it's cool. Lake Jennings is probably one of the most common places to watch this. It's just unreal. So, like I said, they used to do stockings more, but now it's not as much of a thing. So maybe the fish aren't nearly as well accustomed to it, but there's definitely some. Yeah, they know what to eat.
Like one of the best days I ever had at the bait barge fishing for sand bass was they were delivering bait to the bait barge, and I was just catching like unlimited amount of fish. And I halfway through I was like, I wonder if they know that they're all up and ready waiting for the fish to slip out through the cracks. And because they were unloading, man, had that little sloop out and they were just dumping the bait fish into the thing. But that bite was it was out of control. And probably for that same reason, I think they knew.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Easy meal.
Yeah. They were ready
easy
to go,
meal.
for sure. They were eating whatever came down. It was crazy.
Yeah. Fish are more opportunistic, I think, than we give them crazy credit for. They're just so ready all the time. So,
I mean, that's why I like works and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they don't, and a lot of people think they need to eat every day. Some fish do, especially during warmer waters, but not every fish needs to eat every day. And a bass that eats a trout or that's like a foot long, they probably don't need to eat for like 2 weeks, possibly longer, especially if it's cold water because the metabolism slows. So like you only get that one shot.
And when they're adults, it's like they don't need to grow.
Yeah, they're already grown.
Yeah, they're full grown. It's cold. Yeah, they don't.
They usually put their energy towards creating eggs, though, and eggs takes a lot of energy to create. So the food they consume, especially during the winter, goes to spring. That's kind of like that's how they accumulate enough energy to be able to produce. reproduce. So, but the sand bass, like imagine a sand bass that's 18 inches and it gobbles down an 8-inch long sardine or a 7-inch long sardine, whatever. That's like, if it does 2 of those, it's extremely full. And that's like what the barges are getting stuffed with. So they don't have to eat very often, especially during like super stagnant times where there's not a lot of demand for live bait. Like they don't have to bring in tons of bait into the barge. So like spring, winter, fall, not summer, like the fish are probably not eating as consistently. And so they have to wait longer periods of time before they finally get an opportunity to eat, out of the barge again. So
yeah,
I don't know. A lot of people, I don't know if people think like this. This is kind of what I think about all the time, but like, I think that your barge, that makes a lot of sense. The barge fishing that you have makes a lot of sense for sure.
Yeah. Should be a pro tip. If you guys can figure out the delivery schedule, check it out. I mean, it just kind of happened when I was there. It wasn't planned or anything, but I did definitely make that correlation for sure.
That's a good one.
Where I knew that there was, because I noticed when I was paddling in, I was like, oh, they're getting a delivery, and it just so happened that was like the bass went up like crazy. Yeah, that's probably
I wonder what it looked like down there. Can you imagine if you dove down there, like how the bottom must have looked? It must have just been coated with sand bass, like, and spotties, like just coated.
Yeah.
The way you were catching them. Or you were just in a spot where they were like stacked, So must have been crazy to look at though.
I have got spotties there too. Big ass spotties. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a spotty bull tip for you guys. If you got the time, go check the bait barge. Not often. I don't catch spotties often, but every single one I've caught there has been like 16 pluser for sure.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's only been a handful of times, so it's not like an everyday thing, but they'll make it up there.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely make it up there.
So you gonna tell everyone about the fishing yesterday?
Yeah, we went out. So we finally made it out to the Atlantic. Took the boat out for the first time. We had it shipped over here, and I haven't put it in the water yet. And yeah, we finally got to take it out. And man, what a crazy day! Talk about winter fishing. I mean, it was freezing. Luckily, we got the pilot house. Wasn't that big of a deal. Made our way out. Launched at a Sisters Creek. Headed towards the mouth, and we didn't have to go too far. We maybe 15-mile round trip, I'd say. Round trip probably 30, but I think the farthest we went out was probably 15 miles or so. But yeah, what an absolute. I mean, we probably had fish on like almost every drop. It was one of those days for sure. I mean, it was definitely wild, especially when we go out and it was like, to me, it was foreign, right? Like I don't think you have either. We've never fished that area off of Jacksonville.
No.
I've never done reef fishing before. I didn't know what to expect, but we just found some wrecks, found some structure, and then just absolutely destroyed them with the jigs. Crazy. How many species do you think we got? I think we counted. It was like 10 or 12 different species or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time counting without writing it down, but redfish, red snapper, triggerfish, grunts, did I say triggerfish?
Triggerfish.
Yeah. Grunts,
black sea bass,
amberjack, pinfish, amberjack, vermilion snapper.
You say redfish?
I did. So that's 8.
Snapper.
Mangrove snapper. So that's 9. Bonito. Yeah. So that's 10. And then a toadfish.
The toadfish.
That's 11. And then there was a couple other ones. So there was like 13 of them. Because there's that one with the black spot, the Sargo looking thing.
Mm-hmm. And then the grunion or porgy or whatever the hell that thing was.
Yeah. So at least 13 for sure. Yeah. That's crazy. And some good sized red snapper. It's really a big bummer that they're not legal right now, because we would have been loaded, dude. Loaded.
Yeah. It was a shame. It's a shame throwing those things back. It's just one of those things too. It's disappointing because it's like, how can they be protected? Like, we caught so many. It's like, is there really a problem with managing these fish? It's didn't really make sense. Like the rockfish in California, like the bronze spotted and stuff like that, those that are protected, the yellow. I never catch those, which
Yeah,
makes sense because
they're
makes sense
rare.
why they're protected because you almost never run into them.
Yeah.
But here it's just like they protect the snapper. You can only fish like 3 days a year, but it's like they were everywhere, like unlimited amounts.
But I think that shows that their idea works. Their management style is actually working because they
Sure, you never
have
get to keep
these.
them
Yeah,
3 days out of the year, of course.
I like it. I think it's good. They have a very healthy ecosystem out here. The fact we went out there and caught some of these fish and being novices out here is really it's telling that there's a really good management style out here. Like, I mean, if California did have management practices, I think it's really hard with rockfish because they're so deep. Um, but if they had management practices like out here, it'd probably drive people nuts. They'd probably hate fishing because it's just so complicated to understand all the different times that there's things open, the slot limits, and all the different kinds of limits. There's total length versus fork length versus like captain versus you can't have crew limits or captain's limits, but you can have this limit and like it's and you can have vessel limit versus angler limits, and it is very detailed. But I think that their management practices and everyone being on board here has kind of helped the ecosystem just grow great. Like it's flourishing. There's no problem. Like out here, there's so many freaking fish. It's crazy. Like it's just an unbelievable amount of fish out
We
there.
we were telling ourselves, like, what the hell is this place in the summer? We come out here in
Yeah.
the middle of winter. The water was like 54 degrees,
Yeah.
and we were just laying the beat down on them. It's like, what is summer like? Like that's crazy. It's crazy. It almost felt like cheating, like you were talking about. We're like, I wonder
Yeah.
if we just had a good day. Like we're like, it couldn't be this easy. It was pretty sad, but it was like it was pretty easy catching these fish.
Yeah, I think it's normal.
They love the jig.
I don't
That was
know.
cool. That was super
They
fun.
do.
We pretty
Yeah.
much just worked the 40 and 60 gram
Yeah.
assassin all day was the ticket.
Super slow, super slow. That was really
They
cool to
get
see
on
them.
slow. Yeah.
Yeah. It was really cool to see them just like, I mean, you literally were like doing this and they would just come up and barely bite it and then just pull down a little bit and you knew it wasn't snagged. It was a fish, but
Yeah.
it was weird. Very, very interesting. And I don't know, man. Like I think the summer is going to be super insane.
Yeah, that's what's
So
crazy.
they also say that the wind lies down a little bit. So it's not, this is like the windiest time of year, but like after this, it gets really flat out there and then you can make the long runs. So we'll see.
Yeah. It was crazy because it was like nobody out there. I think we saw
Mhm.
one, maybe two boats, like maybe one. We saw like that one person fishing. That was it, like
Yeah.
the whole time. And we weren't even that far offshore. You can see land pretty much the whole time, but it was just wild.
Yeah.
I think everybody just had. I think that's where we have the advantage in the boat that I have. I got a pilot house boat. Pretty much everybody out here in Florida, they got center consoles. They've got open air boats, and that would be a bad time going out there as cold as it was. I think it's just been too cold for anybody to get out. So that was super cool. We kicked it in comfort, man. Stay dry,
Yeah.
stay warm, and definitely an advantage. We just had the reefs all to ourselves. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. It was different. It was like, I don't know. You don't get that experience like that in Cali. It's where it's just if you're a novice and you go to a place you've never been where it's wide open fishing, I just don't think that happens very often in California compared to here. So
We were talking about this too, and it's for the newer Florida listeners. I don't want to disrespect y'all, but
don't say it then.
I'm just gonna say, like, if you're a good angler in California, you're a badass because it's hard to catch fish in California. You know what I'm saying? Like it's harder to catch fish in California than it is in Florida. Like I think maybe certain species and stuff like that, but I mean you got to work. They're
Yeah.
more finicky. The water's colder. They're not as abundant. It's a different world. They're deeper. Like we were fishing, the deepest we went was like 70 feet. It just doesn't get
Yeah.
deep in the Atlantic. We want to find good sized rockfish. We're dropping over 600 feet deep. Just to get it
Right.
done. Trying to find the big rockfish. You can find smaller ones, but I don't know. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe we're gonna go out and hit the reefs again, and we're just gonna get skunked, and who knows?
Well, I think
Maybe we
that,
just had an epic day, or maybe that's just what it's always like.
well, it's like athletes that train in higher altitude to expand their lungs. If you're having to train harder when it comes time to game time, it gets easier. So maybe in high, in places with a lot of bodies of water with a lot of what is it called? Pressure. Too many people on the water and too many lures in. The fish just get acclimated to all that, right? They get shied away from the things they see regularly. But maybe out here there's a few things like you're used to having to fish with less fish around to eat your lure, but out here maybe there's more fish that eat your lure, right? So it kind of helps that part out, and maybe you're conditioned as an angler to fish with more thoughts behind all the things you're doing to make sure you get a bite. So maybe there is that factor too. But
Yeah, well, I mean, bait too is another one. Like you don't
yeah.
bait isn't really accessible in California. You cannot throw nets. Nets are illegal. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
go out and cast net. You could bring cut bait and some frozen stuff, but you can stop by a bait barge. But it's not as easy to just get bait. You know what I mean? So I think there's as an aspect to it. A lot of Californians, it's a lot of artificial fishing just out of
Yeah.
necessity. You can't go to
Yeah.
the ramp and throw a net.
You can buy bait though. And buying
Yeah.
bait is a very nice live bait from the water is a very nice thing. And out here, I don't know how much people can buy like live from
I
a
think they get the live
barge on the
shrimp.
water. They can get live shrimp. They can
Shrimp
get
seems to
live
be
mud
hard to
minnows.
feed.
They can get live things, but I don't know if they can't get pogies live. Like they're just too
Right.
hard to keep alive. They can't get they call them sardines, but they look like a shad. It's like you can't get that. It's very hard to keep them alive, and they have cigar minnows. Like they have to go catch that in ballyhoo. They have to catch alive if they want it alive. So there's not those particular baits, or like goggle eye, which is is a really amazing bait. It's super tough and it gets bit, but you can't. There's a handful. I fished West Palm Beach with Brian Nelly and Pushing Water kayak charters in West Palm, and he can buy bait. It's not always a regular thing, so you have to go sabiki it. It may not be a guarantee either. So, but yeah, it is a very interesting difference out here. I do think that West Coast anglers do have an advantage buying it from a bait barge, by the way. I think that is an incredible opportunity to buy like 100 sardines for $25 is
Go get a
incredible.
scoop. Right.
Mm-hmm. So maybe not 100 sardines, but a lot. So enough to get you through a day. So, and I just think that the pressure is different. I think that's like the biggest thing is there's a lot of people that fish and it's a very small area to go fish. Like out here, there is so much stuff. Like there's wrecks. You're in the St. John's. There's like bridges here and docks and reefs and rocks and oyster bars, and you can just keep power plant and and all the underwater wrecks. Like just there's so much stuff. Like you can't possibly no angler a group of anglers in the entire state at any one time on a weekend. I doubt they can fish everything. Like it's just that much stuff. So there's no way. There's no way. Out in Cali, you can fish everything. Like it's a weekend of water of really good angling in the summer. Everything's probably going to get fished at least once or twice by any one group of anglers. So, but I don't know. Out here, it's just like there's more fish, there's more everything. So, and definitely less people. I think the winter time's different, but there's a lot less stress on particular bodies. Like you don't see the 10 people on one spot. At least not yet. Maybe in summer, but like
Right.
we'll get there. I'm sure in summer it's a totally different animal, because I've seen some YouTube videos where I was like, wow, they're on top of each other, but we'll see.
I think the more options to fish out here too thins it out as well, because from here you can fish from bridges. There's tons of public docks. You can fish from there's
shoreline,
a dedicated bridge that's like a mile long. That's for fishermen that you can go fish from. You can fish from all the public bridges. You can go onto the beach.
Yeah.
They make it accessible. Where in California, it's kind of like you got to get on the water because it's hard to shore pound, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like most of the docks are private. There are some public piers, but those are just like jam packed. Like good luck with that,
Shore pounders could get lost here.
From bridges, and then even that, you've got so many bodies of water just closed off of MPAs. Like you go up in Carlsbad and half the lagoons there in Del Mar, like, oh, you can't fish past this point. That's all off limits. It's a reserve. So
it's true.
Unfortunately, I feel like like you're saying, the fishing just gets so hammered and so congregated. But again, I think that's what helps improve anglers. Honestly, it's sort of like the Japanese thing, with the slow pitch jigs. I always talk about this when I give seminars. Japan is roughly the size of California and has like 100 million more people than California does, and everybody in Japan fishes. It's a huge sport out there. So I think that's why Japanese anglers are just so good. The stuff they come up with is so innovative.
True.
And when someone comes from Japan, you're like, oh, this works. It's like it has to work. You know what I mean? It's super pressured. And I feel like we get a little bit of that bleed California style too. It's so restrictive, whether it's by laws or zones. I don't know. I think if you can fish in California, I think you'll do well fishing other places. Where I can kind of see if you were from Florida and you went to California, you might be frustrated a little bit. I feel like, whether it's the government restrictions or just like people being in your spots, like you don't have the freedom to fish. Whether it's bait, whether it's zones, it's just.
I agree. Yeah,
it's a lot more restrictive.
Well, and the depth and the water is deeper. So like immediately, you're used to out here. If you're fishing redfish and trout, you're used to fishing like maybe 10 feet is the deepest, like that in a creek. Like you'd be like, oh, that's pretty deep. But like in Cali, you need a fish in 10 feet. Like that's where all the spotties are. So it's a totally different animal. Like you're not sight fishing for a spotted bay bass on the regular. Like you're doing that like every day you want in the back of a creek and for redfish. Like it's a very regular thing. So it's so much cooler out here. Like you see fish do things you wish you could see in Cali. Like it's not the same. So, but you know what? Like majority of America is actually a lot better fishing than anything any Californians ever experienced ever. Like California is just a small state compared. Well, it's not really, but it's got 10% of the population in the U.S. But like you can go to Texas, Louisiana, you can go. There's Alabama, little sliver. There's Texas or Florida, South Carolina, Georgia's even really good. North Carolina, Virginia. Just keep going up the coast. And then it's all kind of like this. Like there's just crazy fishing. I think you can get a little bit up above New York. Maine might be a little tougher, but like, dude, Chesapeake Bay is firing right now for big stripers. Like Ethan is,
that's his hometown. Yeah. And he just
red giant bull reds are going to come soon. Like there's just stuff everywhere around the East Coast, and the Gulf are just loaded with fishing. And the people are all into it too. So it's not like we're not uncommon people, uncommon folk now. Like your chimney guy today, like he was into fishing. Like pretty much every contractor you've had over here at your house has been into fishing. So
every single one. It's like I tell them I make lures, and they all light up. Every single one of them fishes. They've all got spots. They've all got stories. Like every single person. It's crazy. Same thing with St. Augustine. When we had our house working on it, was like contractor rolled up. He had rods in the back of his truck. It's like, like, of course he does. Like that's
That's just common. Like, I think I'm not sure the population of Florida. I mean, it's catching up there now, but I believe well, I know
like the fastest growing state.
I know their 2021 their sales numbers for licenses was above 18 million licenses sold in Florida. So
that's insane.
If that's even close to California's numbers and the population is over 30 million in Florida, like, which I don't think it is, that is a lot of people. That's more than half the people fish out here.
It's like 23 million as of July 1st, 2023 in Florida.
Well, there you go. I mean, people buy fishing licenses out here, and I think that included out of state. So, like, people, tourism and stuff.
People come here to fish. Yeah,
that's a lot of people that are buying licenses.
Is 38 million.
Wow, it grew. That's interesting. So, but like, I'm in
18% decline in California.
Oh, okay. But I've explained this to a lot of the manufacturers that I work with when we put product in the stores, and thinking about this, like thinking about the amount of people that fish in America, California is probably one of the smallest states of people who actually fish. I think that if you're looking at the spotty community alone, I would venture to guess there's less than 30,000 people, probably less than that actually fish spotties as a whole, like the whole size of that community. Like I said, probably less. And out here, redfish is like, everyone knows what a redfish is. Everyone's fished it before. Like it's not an uncommon creature to target. Like it's very frequent. Like you were raised on redfish fishing, you're learning how to do it when you're young. So I think it's just night and day, the amount of people that are actually in that community.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, especially the fishing community in California, it's like everybody's so tight knit. Everybody knows each other. It's like, we're like a group, because it's almost like an exclusive group. When you're an angler in California, it's like,
yes,
everybody, you fight together, you get along. It's like, oh, you fish? And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, really? And they usually know somebody else that fishes. All the names, and everybody knows everybody, and it's a lot tighter group. Like, because out here, it's just like, oh yeah, everybody fishes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're not special.
It's not exclusive. No, not at all. No. It's not like, oh, you fish. It's more like, yeah, of course I fish.
Yeah, I fished yesterday, or I fished this week. How was it for you? Like that's a normal conversation you have with any person that's in the Gulf or the East Coast, and Florida. So, yeah, I like it.
It makes me more disappointed in California. Seeing what it could be.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. I think the fishing is really different, but good in California. I think the fishing is good if you want something large.
Fishing, dude.
Yeah. I mean, if you want something large, you can go to California and catch a big old tuna, big swordfish, even marlin when they come through. Like, there's cool yellowtail. There's really cool different fish, and like spotties fishing is really cool too. It's like it's just a grouper. It's like always around. They're biting, and not always biting, but they're usually biting well.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, but like, I wish every person in the fishing community in California could come and experience Florida fishing, like in the creeks during the summer, like redfish fishing at least once, because you might just stay. Like, it's just that cool. Like it's so hard to leave, man. It's so hard to leave once you're here. It's so good. So
yeah, it's crazy. A little taste of freedom.
Mm-hmm. A lot of freedom.
So what do you have? You have any New Year's fishing resolutions this year? 2024, any fishing goals?
I would like to land a tarpon. I jumped enough tarpon last year to frustrate me. I'd like to land one. I don't know. I had a good time last year. I did some different stuff, and I had a great time. I think that I'd like to see the big snapper bites and like the bigger grouper out here. Like, I want to see that. I want to experience what that's like. I've done a lot of sight fishing for redfish and bull reds And I'm not a huge speckled trout guy personally. It's just not my favorite. But I think if I caught giants, I'd be more into it. But I'm just not into it.
I've seen some big ones. I mean,
Yeah,
not giants, but I've seen like some decent sized ones.
I think my biggest is like 23, and I believe my biggest came from Mosquito Lagoon. But there's some big ones out there. Like I caught a 21-inch in one of the creeks here in Jacksonville. There's some giants out here too. Some really good sizes. I won't say giants, but there's some good ones. But anyways, yeah, I think like I would really like to get in a big snapper or big grouper, and I think like that reef fishing. Yeah, getting just your ass kicked. Like when you hook something and you're just like, oh, what the hell is that, dude? Like, and you just don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want that. So, what about you?
I'm not sure. I think probably sight fishing. Get some practice out a little more.
Nice.
Before I totally give it up, give it a shot. Catch some sight red fishing for sure. It's like I think the reef fishing will always be there. I mean, that's fun. That's like my jam, right? Is the vertical fishing and all that stuff. But yeah, probably just getting better. I should say that getting better at the sight fishing. Standing on a kayak and pushing your way through. It's a totally different. It's just a totally different style of fishing. It's almost like I said. It's more hunting, I think, than it is fishing. Yeah, you spend so little time actually with the line in the water.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like you go hours without ever even casting. It's like your rod just sits there, and you spend so much time just like pushing through the mud and looking and searching. So, we'll see.
You're gonna see it change so much, though. Like it's so slow compared to what it is in summer. You're just gonna when you get to summer,
you get on the trout bite.
Oh yeah. Well, like
when the redfish don't pan out, like I just go in the middle of the creek and throw out a 10 gram and just.
It's true. Slam them.
At least you get bit. It is fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the other day we were out there. It was hilarious. You were just out there picking them off an oyster bed that was way out in the middle, and I was like, yeah, it's the flounder too. That's interesting development. So.
Oh yeah, I caught a flounder. I went out.
Yeah.
So I fished, and I don't know if you guys know, but like fishing is hard work. Especially when you're going offshore. You know what I mean? Like I went Tuesday, and then I went Wednesday, and it was like I was beat, man. Even today, I'm like I'm tired. Just we went offshore, but then if you're just casting like all day and reeling, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
and I work out regularly too. I try to stay in shape, but it's like just being out there on the boat and moving and bouncing. That was definitely beat. But yeah, I got a flounder.
Delicious flounder.
Just working it off the ground. Yeah, I think it was the best eating fish I've had so far out here. We've been eating a lot of fish lately, so yeah.
Yeah.
So my sister's tired of fish, she said. Yesterday she told Kevin, she's like, honey, I don't want fish again tomorrow. We've been eating the trout, flounder,
redfish. Yeah. Snapper. Now we've had snapper and black sea bass, which was delicious.
Yeah. What was that one snapper? What was that one?
Vermilion.
The vermilion snapper. Not the red snapper, guys.
No.
The black sea bass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Been eating a lot of fish for sure.
Yeah, vermilion snapper is freaking awesome. So I like that.
Good. Yeah, that was actually really good. I don't think as good as the flounder, but it was pretty good.
Yeah,
flounder was top shelf. But
now the guys over in California, they're not even able to rockfish. You remember that? They're closed until April.
Yeah, they added another month to it.
Sucks, man.
I do like that they opened the zone though. I would take the month. I'd take a longer month. I think it was a fair trade.
To fish deeper.
Basically, you can fish anywhere. It was so like restrictive last time.
I like it too.
I thought last year's regulations were good. I think they were good for the fishery. People have seen bigger rockfish than I've ever seen people catch. And
they're catching different ones too.
Different style, Mexican rockfish. That's another one, the cow cod, where that's like the snapper out here. We caught so many cow cod. It's like, really? We really got to protect these things. The zones we were, it was like,
dude, caught so many
why are
cow
we
cod.
protected? Like it is crazy. That's
so
what
many.
snapper fishing reminded me of. Like, are these really
When the
hard to find?
if cow cod ever opens back up in California, we have to go on opening day. We just have to. We have to.
We know where
Yeah,
they
we
are.
will.
We've got the.
Yeah.
Except my boat's out here now, so
We'll figure it out.
We'll find somebody to take us.
We'll go with Brian. We'll go with Brian.
On his boat, you think it'll make it out there?
Yeah, we took that thing out, dude. Tuna fishing, no problem. Well, no problem. It'll run out of gas by the time we come back, but it's no problem.
Yeah. He's got a Florida boat, man.
Hey, doesn't he have a trolling motor now?
He's always had it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did have spotlight when we were on. That's right.
He was like the original, man. He swears by it. He runs that thing 24/7.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I got one on my boat. It was like, maybe
game changer,
like cheating, dude. We're on the reef, just
game changer. Game changer is so overused, but when you talk about spot lock, like it's not overused. It is game changer. It's legit. It's insane. So much better than point anchor.
I got it like not too long before I moved last year, and it was like we didn't have it when we rock fished. No. I used it a few times, went rock fishing, but it was like if we had that, we already kicked ass in rockfish tournaments last year, but we were having to drift, reset.
Yeah.
If we had the spot lock on our
it would have been insane.
Last year, it would have been like
we would have really nailed some big 'em. Yeah, we would have nailed some real. I mean, we were catching before we got to tournament days. There's the one tournament we caught 3 7.5 pound Mexican reds. And the tournaments we went afterwards, like the bigger ones were 5 pounds.
Yeah, they were.
But we couldn't even set up on the spots correctly during those times we caught smaller fish. So when we actually set up right, we catch giants.
Yeah. So imagine just locking into place and just hovering over that zone. That would have been crazy.
Yeah, the second tournament we fished, we definitely slacked up. We definitely could have done better on that one. We didn't have the spot lock, which would have definitely helped that day. It was pretty flat though that day, but still,
drift, it's like it goes so quick. You only get a few drops. Like you literally get like a drop or two, like in your zone, and
it's true.
Then you got to reset, and you got to drift again, and then your drift is never the same. You didn't go over the spot that you wanted to. It's like you pushed out too much far north, and you're just like,
and
it's frustrating, yeah.
And the back of the boat is the only place to fish. So when you have spot lock, you can move around a little bit around the boat at least, and spread out versus having to be in one corner with 3 lines on a private boat. So
right.
Yeah, man. Guess we'll have to have another boat out there.
Yeah. And a lot of those offshore boats don't even have the trolling motors. That's like, I was one of the OGs, like the guys at H&H Marine. They never put one of those on before. They had to it's all custom made. They had a custom plate. They kind of thought I was crazy, I think, when I told them I wanted it, but it was like.
Everyone has one out here. Every boat.
I used it last year on patties, kelp patties.
That's cool.
I straight up just anchored up on a patty and Dorado fish,
That's cool.
It was great.
Yeah, that's neat.
It was crazy. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right, Kevin. Appreciate it, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, man. Happy New Year.
2024. I think it's going to be a good year. Definitely a change for me. But we had a great start, man, already. My first 2 trips out have been pretty successful, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is winter fishing out here, I can't even imagine what summer is going to be like.
It's going to be sick. And tarping out your backyard, so can't wait.
Yeah. So where can we find you? What do you got to plug? What do you got?
Get on our website, fishingreps.com, and you can find all the products that we represent in stores, including Submission Fishing Company. And we're going to start lighting up more and more deep water species out here, and even the shallow stuff with submission jigs. So go out there, support your local dealers, and get yourself some of the products that we rep. That's how you can support us. It really helps.
Awesome. Yeah. Likewise, just check out the tackle store, guys. If people don't have the jigs, ask for them if they don't carry the submission stuff. And aside from that, I mean, it's been a great year. I really appreciate all you guys helping us grow. And Looking
More
forward
to
to
come.
2024, and trade shows will be out there at PCS, and it'll be good stuff.
Yep.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Oos.
Black belt fishing. Oos.